very carefully though, I've already broken one glass. So. It's fantastic to be here and in front of such a great audience of so many diverse women and a few men. I think I was really lucky when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s because my parents always made me believe that there's nothing I couldn't do because I was a girl. So I went through a bit of a phase. I wanted to be a brain surgeon and an airline pilot, but in the end I decided I wanted to be a computer programmer, which at the time seemed like really cool and really future oriented. And I ended up doing computer science. I was one of 3 women out of 80 men, geeky young guys, I would say. I spent the first 3 months, I didn't actually understand a word that anyone was talking about. These guys had all kind of grown up playing computer games, and we just didn't have that in my home, so it was a mysterious world. But I actually found I was quite good at it, did it for a little while, and then I decided I'd rather work with people rather than machines. So I got involved in leadership development, and I met some people who were doing some really exciting research at the time, looking at the future of leaders. What would leaders need to look like in a very different, much more dynamic, complex world? And once we had enough data, which took a few years because it was mostly men to begin with, once we had enough women in our data sample, I started to look at it to see, well, where are the similarities and differences? And in a nutshell, what I found is if you ask the right question, which is, do women have what it takes to be effective in dynamic, complex environments? The answer was resoundingly yes. In fact, I found that they had more capability at an earlier stage in their career than their male peers. But if you ask the question, do they know how to get promoted in a large bureaucracy, the answer was not so much. So anyway, on the back of that research, I set up my own business, which was really about developing leaders across different sectors, different cultures. We had 200 people at one point, so it was a very exciting time. When I look back over 20 years, what's changed? Well, on the bad news is, if you look at the numbers, not very much. And like some of the speakers have said, it could be 50 to 100 years before we see parity, and I'll definitely be past caring by then. I'm also hearing the same narrative that I did in my early research, that women don't get that first critical promotion to management, they don't get access to senior leaders, they don't negotiate, and when they do, they're criticised for being bossy and aggressive. And even in my own coaching, I find that men come with a whole range of different issues that they want to work through. So many women come either because they need to have more gravitas, i.e. be masculine, or they need to tone down the psycho bitch from hell bit and become more feminine. It's a very narrow tightrope, and I still see that even now. However, I am choosing to be positive and optimistic. I am really detecting a shift in the nature of the conversation. It's on the CEO's agenda. I think in 78% of FTSE companies now have it on the agenda properly. I think it's starting to be seen not just as a women's issue, but a proper 21st century issue. And I believe that over the next 10 years we're going to see a real polarisation. It's a bit like the boiling frog, Some companies will jump out of that pot, the more progressive ones, and some will just boil to death. So my final thought would be, whether you're new to this conversation, or whether you've been part of this conversation for 45 years or whatever, let's just keep the energy, let's keep the momentum, and let's be bold for change. Thank you.